Welcome back to the Deakin Reserve, the Two East Challenge for 1988. This time it's West Australia's turn to come across to Victoria and play the Big B. Last year, Victoria went across to West Australia. They came home with a prize, but this year the West Australians look like they are going to serve it right up to the Victorians. Don Kilgour is down on ground level. Don, we've been struggling to get to you all day, old son, but amongst all the music down there, can you tell us what's been happening?
Yes, thank you, Rob. Well, we're back to a cable microphone, and it's nice to see we're coming through. Things are pretty good in the Western Australian rooms. I've just come out of the Western Australian rooms speaking to their team manager, and if you can hear me above the Wong brothers, they're making 3 changes here on the ground at half-time, with Doyle, Crook and Hanson all coming onto the ground, 3 of their interchange players, replacing Marsden, Murray and Comaghan. So those 3 players will be coming off the ground. But Western Australia are pretty pleased with the way they've been going. They expected Victoria to serve it up to them a little bit more than they have, and I think that they're quite surprised at this stage that they're in a position where they can really use their half-time as a springboard for attack. And I think that we're going to see the Western Australian side come out and really throw everything at this Victorian side at half-time. So we'll look forward to it in the 3rd quarter, boys.
All right, thank you very much, Don, and we'll get down to you, hopefully, fingers crossed, a little bit more often throughout the day. Having a look through some of the goal kickers, perhaps, Rod, on both sides. Perhaps you might like to start off with the West Australian side.
Yes, so far we have Lee Wright, who has been playing at centre-half forward, and he's the player I did mention earlier. He looked as though he was going to be a real handful for Graham Moyle. Moyle is a very mean customer. I saw him in the rooms before the game, and I wouldn't like to play against him. But as we mentioned, perhaps lacking a little bit in the way of pace, but he's been playing pretty well. He has 2. Brett Marsden, who flashed into the game particularly in the second quarter, has 2, 1 each to or Ditchburn 2. Steve Perham has 1, Lachlan 1, and Andrew Crook has 1. And for the VCFL team, the leading goal kicker at the present time is Ken Murray, as I mentioned earlier, playing on his home ground here at Deakin Reserve Shepparton. He has 3. Chris Stacey has 2. A little bit surprised to see him taken off the ground, but however, he may have had an injury. Jeff McElwain has 2, and Terry Love, who came on the ground adding a little bit of a bite for the forward line for the Victorian side, he has 1 as well. So the goal kickers up to this stage at half-time, and 7-13 to 8 goals for. As if you've just joined us here, the Victorians are 3 points ahead. They were 1 point behind at quarter time. We saw a very even first quarter with 1 point to the Western Australians, and perhaps Victoria, as Rob said earlier, maybe a little bit lucky to be in that same position because there was a few opportunities wasted. At 7-13, 55, 3 points to the good of Western Australia, 8-4, 52, and it looks really set for a crackerjack second half.
Well, both sides this year being coached, the West Australians being coached by Rob Howan, who's a non-playing coach, comparatively young age, as we have a look through our profile on him at 29 years of age. He's in his 6th season of coaching, and they say that he's a deep-thinking, quietly spoken coach. You had a chat with him, Shane Healy. There wasn't a great air of confidence about him, although he was the sort of guy that wasn't going to tell you too much, but a very, I don't know how I could describe him, as I suppose comparing him to Stuart Gull. Stuart, I don't think I've seen as nervous as I have in a long, long time. You can see him on the screen at the moment there, the big V of the first onto the ground. Getting back to Robbie Howan, he was a pretty promising teenager, or football in his teenage years, and over in West Australia at the moment, he's pretty well respected.
Oh yes, he certainly is. He took the Great Northern League to the country championships up there last year, and was telling me that having done that, he then is the first chosen to be the coach of the Western Australian country side, and I suppose introverted would be about the best way you could describe Rob, and he certainly knew he had a big task here today, and I suppose he knows deep down that if his players can click on the day, then he's got a big show. But I suppose also he knew he was coming over as a rank underdog, with his side having been beaten last year at home, so to come over here would be all that much harder, and he probably wasn't going to give too much away for that reason. But on the other side of the fence, I agree with you about Stewie Gull. He was incredibly nervous down there and has been up and down like a yo-yo all day from the coach's box. And I'd say Stewie would certainly be serving it up to the boys, and I think we're going down to Don, are we, Rob?
Yes, Don's got some more information down there for us at the moment. Down on ground level, Donny Kilgour amongst the noise down there about band.
Thank you, Rob. More moves in the draft board from the Victorian boys. Stewie Gull and the boys have really changed the side around. What we're going to see is Stacey come onto the ground to go into the centre, and Beck's going to full forward. Murray has gone to centre-half forward, so Kenny Murray line up at centre-half forward. Walsh goes into the forward pocket, and Chris Martin, the boy from Seymour, goes to the half-back flank. So Johnston is the one player that leaves the ground. Johnson is off, and Stacey comes on. Plenty of moves in the Victorian circle, Shane.
Now, Don, I've got a question for you about Stacey. Were you able to work out why he went off in the first place? Because we felt he played a fine first quarter.
There didn't seem to be any injury problems. I don't know why they gave him a run. He's certainly not injured because obviously he's back on now.
Okay, well, that's interesting news. Could you pick a reason for team balance, Rod, why Stacey might have gone off?
No, I couldn't, because he was giving quite a bit of drive from the centre. Although not absolutely dominating, he was playing a very serviceable game, and there were probably 4 or 5 Victorians that I could have taken off before him. Oh, interesting that Johnston, I think, has been a bit of a disappointment today, fellas. I'll throw that in your area. Shane, what do you think?
Okay, I tend to agree, actually, Rod. I think he's been disappointing, Johnson. I've had a couple of disappointments, the Vicks. I don't think Ford's been as dominating, Rob, as what I might have expected from the big Ballarat boy.
Yeah, he's had a lot of touches, in my opinion, having a look at it, Rod. He's been there at the fall of the ball. In fact, I believe that probably Ford is playing the true ruckman's game, actually, because in actual fact, as we see the West Australians coming onto the ground at the moment, but when the ball has come out of the centre and gone across that half-forward line, he's been floating across the half-back line there, using it as a wall of defence in that last line of defence. And, there's not too many ruckmen that are prepared to cover the whole area of the ground, actually. And whereas Shane might be a little bit critical of him, I don't think he's been doing too bad a job.
He's probably been more value there than in the ruck, to be honest, and I would agree perhaps as a true ruckman he hasn't really been dominating as much as I would have expected. I'm a Footscray fan myself, and I've always admired Alistair Ford, but perhaps not doing the job as I would have liked.
Well, he's had the likes of Johnny Walsh and these fellows that have been capable and able to turn around and take the load off him.
Well, I was about to mention Walsh because he has played a pretty serviceable game. He's been there mixing it in amongst the packs, Big Walsh particularly. Hasn't taken a heap of marks, but he's always been there, and he's a pretty solid performer.
I think we should give a few of the Western Australians a bit of a pat in the back because they've had some pretty good players, fellows. Glenn O'Loughlin's done a good job, the vice-captain of the side, been very, very busy. The boy Lewis, Clayton Lewis, Chris Lewis's brother's been a good player around the ground. Len Murray and also Jeff Hooper in defence have had plenty of work to do. Len's playing on Ken Murray, who's probably got the edge, but there's been times when Len's had 2 to beat and has been able to thump the ball through. Thought Don Crognali was probably their best player in the first half. Little busy beaver, isn't he? He gets around the ground, he's got tons of pace. He's been a good player for them. And I also had the impression that Dean Kemp had held up his wing very well. In fact, he had the honour of having Rolfe, a very classy player from Castlemaine, moved off him. And when Love came on, although Love did some good things, Kemp remained right in the game, and he and Cleary have been 2 players who've been able to drive that ball into that WA forward line time and time again. There's not much between these sides. I think it's going to be a clinker of a finish.
Well, 55 playing 52. Umpires in the centre of the ground about to begin the second half of this 1988 Tooheys Challenge. If you've just joined us, the Victorian Country Football League holds sway by 3 behinds. They lead 7-13-55 to the West Australian Country Football League 8-4-52.
And Rod Kilgour and I are having a little bit of trouble holding Rob Gaillard down in the box here with that rocky music going. He's starting to really get pumped up here. He can smell the liniment. So just stay there, Rob. We need you for the rest of the game, my boy.
All right, the umpire with the ball back in the centre of the ground for this second half to get underway. In there to do the ruck work, big Alistair Ford for the VCFL. His opposite number 27, Kim Rogers for the West Australian Football League. Ford gets the ball to the ground, weight being used. Bounded out there was David Hando out to one side. Stacks on the mill. Players with their arms in the air as if to say, umpire, he's got possession of it. Why isn't he getting rid of it? The umpire lets play go on. Now the whistle blows. And we have a whistle on players. We find Brad Nichols coming there to put a tackle on the West Australian opponent there in Peter Slater. So, a fiery opening so far for this second quarter. The runners being utilised very quickly. Stuart Gull has Alan Thompson onto the ground. Of course, very well known through the Hampden League, and of course an ex-Fitzroy star, Tomo, helping the Big V, or trying to help the Big V towards victory. 55-52. Perhaps we better start the clock so that we know how we're going for time. The big fellow going up there, Kim Rogers, for the West Australian side. Very scrambly at the moment, Shane. It's almost reminiscent of the first quarter of the Nerves.
I think so, and I think both sides must realise that this first 10 minutes in this third term, if either one can gain a break to gain a little bit of ascendancy, might just send them on to a really good win in this Tooheys Challenge Cup. And I wouldn't like to be predicting at this stage just which way this game will go. Again, it's almost volleyball out there. Eventually little Crognali Nally gets a kick up into the forward line for WA. Well, nearly a strong mark to the west side there, but good defence by Victoria as Francis Burke kept the ball on the ground. It spills across here now toward the big fellow in Chris Martin from Seymour. He's got some size, and he kicks toward the boundary, and we've seen it go over for a throw in.
Young Martin, is that the young fellow that I think played Teal Cup last week?
Yes, he did. He comes from Seymour, only a young boy, a lot of size about him. Very, very impressive player.
Well, that's the youth that's in this side. Young Chris Martin, the Teal Cup, of course, the schoolboys competition. He's out here mixing it with the big fellows, and I dare say there'll be a few talent scouts here this afternoon having a look at some of these players.
And I'd say they'd like what they've seen too. And there's Hartney, ex-Carlton player, now with Sandhurst in the Bendigo League, clearing the ball away up toward the half-back flank. On the scoreboard side, the umpire's picked out a free kick here, though. And it's going to go to Clayton Lewis, brother of the skillful Chris of West Coast Eagles fame. And Clayton Lewis drives toward his captain in Ditchburn. Oh, there's a great mark to Perham. And I said at half-time, this fellow might just be the difference up there on that forward line. He and Ditchburn have both threatened at times to be very dangerous. They both flew for that ball, and Perham has marked. He's got one, going for number 2. He would be 45 metres from goal, 45-degree angle to the western or city end. And it's held up. Ditchburn got a high. Big Pack got a high. Now a kick off the ground would see a WA goal here. They're fighting hard. In true rugby parlance, it's almost like a scrub in there. About 12 players around the ball. And we're going to see a ball up in the goal square. And an early goal here to WA in the third quarter would arrest back the lead for them. It's already changed about 5 times in this game. Up they go, and the Vic defenders try to tap it through and do so. They're successful in doing that. So Victorian Country go to 7-14-56. And the WA Country side 8-4-52. Now go to 8-5-53. Victoria remains 7-13-55. Just checking that score. And after the kick-in, up went big David Butterford, the Ballarat player, on the ground now. He was injured for the Ballarat League against Wimmera last Sunday and has bounced
this
back
has
well.
been a remarkable recovery. Butterford onto the ground. When I saw him on last Saturday night, he couldn't even put his foot to the ground.
It was incredible, Rob.
You don't think that may be the reason why he was an interchange player?
A possibility, but gee whiz, he doesn't look too bad out there. Have a good look at him, because he, although a little bit ginger maybe on the left foot, and that's where
Barbara's what that magic spray can do, though, Shane.
Well, we've got a WA player with a chance here. It's Donny Crognally again, the boy from the Southwest League. A little chip pass which barely went 10 metres has landed in his lap, and he's having a shot now from 45 on the boundary. It's going to be just touched on the way through. Now a strong mark way down there deep in defence by the big fellow again, and that time it was Alistair Ford. Rob said he's doing well around the ground, and probably that's indicative of the work he's doing. He's found Brad Nichols with a nice pass, and the hand pass on toward Terry Love was good play. Love's kick goes up toward the half-forward line. Lenigan's in there. He's wrestling there with a WA player in Mick Cleary, or is it Noel Bairstow in there? It's Bairstow. But the umpire says, no, give it to me. I'm going to put it to ground. Now on the half-forward line for the Victorian Countryside. Play still out there on that far scoreboard side of the ground. A little bit hard to pick up out there. There's the big fellow Rogers going up and getting it down well to Crook. And Crook goes down toward the wing where Cleary's chipped in to take a good mark for the WA side.
Cop one.
He did cop one, Rod Kilgour. He picked that up very quickly. And there's the long driving kick that time. Down the field by Kemp. Down toward that full forward line area. Out comes Ditchburn. Can he pick it up? It goes toward the boundary line. Vicks have got numbers. Hartney got the kick. But the boundary umpire had last say and said, fellows, it went over for a throw-in. And I'm going to put it back into play about 15 metres around from the WA goals with the Vicks up by 2 points.
Don't the Western Australians keep that forward line open, fellas?
I have done that. And, of course, with Ditchburn and Perham such good marks, that's the obvious way to go.
Well, they're moving the ball into their forward line very, very quickly. They have it down there at the moment. Let's see what they can do with it, whether they can capitalise on it. But the defence is good for Victoria. The handball out off the big hands there of Chris Martin. We were talking about him a little bit earlier on to Brendan Hartney. He's in trouble. Hartney's back to Martin. Martin's handball's intercepted. But they're struggling, but they still have possession of it. Big Dobson with the ball. Gets it across here to teammate in Brendan Hartney again, and they swing that ball to the opposite side of the ground now. But I think it's going to beat players over the line and out of bounds as Brad Nichols casually strolls in and takes the ball over the line.
He's been pretty busy since he came on. Nichols had quite a few possessions.
Okay, the ball is on the far side of the ground, or city side, let's say, here at the Deakin Reserve. Underway again. We've travelled 5 minutes into this third quarter, and a vital third quarter. Ken Murray well down from full forward. Has 3 goals to his credit. He's not going to get too many from out there, but he's going to set up the running play. Takes the handball back. Ken Murray's offloaded after he gets rid of it. The umpire says play on, and there's a good mark taken by Terry Love out there. He wants to get it moving quickly. Gets it across to Butterfin. Now here's a chance for Butterfin, the Ballarat player, to turn around and get the kick inboard. It was a shocking kick, but Mick Lenehan was just waiting inside that 50-metre line and has taken the mark some 45 metres out from goal. Now, Michael Lenehan on your screen, number 19, stamped between his shoulder blades, as we see an interchange for Victoria happening. It looks like it could be Francis Berghoff as Lenihan comes in to take his kick. Let's have a look at it. He's well within scoring range. Has he got the accuracy? We'll wait and have a look now. It's offline. So the Big B now move on to 7:14.56, and they are still leading the West Australian Football League 8-5-53.
Hogarth on and Francis Berghoff, and Hogarth going to a back pocket, give them a little bit more pace down there in defence. Rod?
Now, yes, indeed they will. The Western Australians hoping to go forward through this, sorting out from the full-back position or Victorian player going in very, very hard. And the umpire says, I'll have it, boys, as that player had the ball held to him. And the umpire will ball it up almost in the centre of the ground. 3 points the difference. 5 minutes into the third quarter of this big Tooheys Cup game between the Victorian and Western Australian country representative sides. Western Australia go forward from that ball up and counter, and a couple of Victorian players went high but couldn't mark the ball. Going in hard was the boy from Ballarat in David Butterfant, but the umpire sees a ball up again and he'll untangle the players. And he will elect to bounce it down.
Interesting, Rod, to have a look at play so far in this quarter, and also the latter part of that second quarter has been on that opposite side of the ground.
Yes, I don't know whether the tricky wind conditions here have made the difference, but I couldn't be sure, but it may have made some difference. In the meantime, Victorian come out, and gee, this player's played well since he's come on in Terry Love. Favours the short pass, which is a shocker looking for Murray. He's been bundled out of the way, and we'll see the free kick go to the boy who's kicked 3 goals so far for the Victorian countryside, and he puts it right in there looking for... it wasn't Murray, that was Murray who marked the ball, and I think it must have been Big McElwain who came out from the forward pocket before, and he's found his full forward in Ken Murray, who's kicked 3, as we mentioned, has the chance to put his 4th on the board, and this could be a good opportunity for Victoria to break away from the West, but by gee, they're terriers, these boys. The Western Australian seems to come back every time that Victoria go ahead. Ken Murray, very deliberate player. Let's wait on, the umpire says, offline. Well, Victoria's now kicked 15 points as against the Western Australia's 5. I wonder whether if they lose this game they can
22 scoring shots to 13. It's not good football, Shane Healy.
To ill-directed kicking.
I go along with you, Rod, and Rob, and there's a strong mark to Rogers after the kick out. He played on with a handball on to Crook, and now it comes wide. Chance here now for WA to get the ball moving through a new player on the ground in Clint Hansen. Just looked a shade slow for mine as Crook goes into support once again. Umpire's found a free kick this time, and he earned that one, the Eastern District's boy Andrew Crook. But he's got the ball on the half-back flank on the grandstand side. He goes down toward the wing position. Strong mark taken by Chris Martin. I like the look of this kid. He goes across toward Craven, who's running as always. Goes wide to Lenigan. Lenigan's spoilt there. Lewis goes in to do some good supporting work. Little kick off the ground by Crognali. Didn't go too far, but WA have got numbers at the ball and will bring it away with a long kick. Oh, this is loose. Hartney very loose there, and an easy mark taken by Glenn O'Loughlin. O'Loughlin will kick from a 50. He'll be looking for either Big Wright down there or Ditchburn, who's led right up the ground and now had to go all the way back. And O'Loughlin says, no, I'm going to have a shot.
Interesting tussle down there. Have a look at Brendan Dobson. He's wearing Ditchburn like a glove at the moment.
Like a glove is the operative word. Absolutely tight as can be. O'Loughlin's a nice kick of the footy. Right foot drop punt. It's on the way. It might get home this, or is it off hands? Umpire says touched. Both hands went up for a moment. I thought he was going to say all clear, but touched on the line by those big Victorian defenders. There's the scoreboard in the Tooheys Challenge Cup on the 6 Network. Victorian Country 7:15.57. WA Country 8:6.54.
Approaching 10 minutes of this third quarter. Odgers takes the ball on half-back flank for Victoria. Gets it out wide. Finds a teammate. And it's Jeff McElwain. Been quiet so far in the game. But possessed of plenty of ability and plenty of skill. McElwain, his kick up towards past centre wing, but it'll be a free kick to Victoria and it'll go to Big John Walsh. Walsh should drive this down long. There's not too many moves up forward, although there's a couple of short ones on that half-forward flank. And he's plucked one out there, and it's gone here to Odgers, who's well down from that back pocket, and he's kicked the ball into the square. Oh, that's got to be a magnificent mark there to Hando. Hando's mark for mine. We'll wait and see what the umpire has to say, because I don't think it could have gone through.
I think the goal post may have been touched by the ball, the way the goal umpire was signalling.
Well, gee, it's not bad reflexes if that's the case. If he's plucked it back up off the goal post, it has too. He's given it as a behind, so it must have... well, I can't fathom that. The ball must have hit the post.
I'd say the ball and Love, or was it Hando, have hit the post almost together.
Yeah.
And, well, 1 point resulting again.
Well, it's either touched or a goal either way, so It's another behind that goes onto the scoreboard for the VCFL. Then into the centre of the ground. Now here's Terry Love. Left foot, high, switched it out to that opposite side of the ground, looking there for little Danny Craven. Lewis overruns the ball, offloads his Victorian opponent there, and the free kick will go Victoria's way on that far side of the ground. And Don Kilgour is down on ground level with us. Don, what have you got to report?
Michael Rolfe's come onto the ground, replacing Murray Whitcomb, fellas. No injuries, just giving Rolfe a run. Of course, he's been on the bench for some time. And the Western Australians have also made a move, bringing on number 6 in Steve Perham for number 19 in Craig Patterson. 2 moves at this stage.
Don, I'll get you to keep your eyes on Gary Odgers down there. He's been moved up from that back pocket. Has had about 3 possessions of the football in the last 90 seconds, and he was instrumental in getting that ball forward for Victoria. But we find Lewis now chipping in on centre wing for the West Australian side. Long kick of Lewis's down there looking for Ditchburn, but the crummers at the back, I believe that he got a bit of a nudge out. I don't think it was Ditchburn, but it's the big fellow down there for Western Australia, and it could be Jeff Hooper. Got a bit of a nudge out. Hooper's going to kick from 48 metres. Only takes 2 steps, walks into the ball. It's not a bad try. It's going to fall short, and the big arms go up there of Alistair Ford, it looks like, for mine. And big Alistair Ford has taken the mark. Umpire said you better go back and either kick over your mark or handball, because that's the new rule of football, Shane Healy. You've seen plenty of it down the VFL this year. So Alistair Ford comes back in, takes the left foot kick. That's better. But he doesn't find an opponent. He doesn't find a teammate. He finds an opponent, I should say. Has copped one for his corner on that far side of the ground. Looks like it could be Mike Cleary. Mike Cleary, or is it Dean Kemp? I think it's Dean Kemp, actually. 2 blonde-headed fellows, very, very much alike. Fancies himself, too. He's going to kick from 46 metres out from goal. Let's have a look and see what young Kemp can do with this one. Holds up well. Right into the square, but it's offline. And we find waiting at the back of the pack again, big Alistair Ford. Looks like Stewie Gull's going to use him as a resting ruckman down on that back line. 58 plays 55. We've travelled 12.5 minutes of the third quarter.
And in the 12.5 minutes, no goals as yet. And here's a kick out that's gone out on the full. It was looking for Hartney, and it was touched out. It didn't actually carry over the line, but it's as good as out on the full, and it's going to be a resulting free kick going WA's way. Mick Cleary from the North Pilbara is going to put it up toward the goal square. They'll be looking for Perham or Ditchburn. Ditchburn got the hands to the ball. It spills out here where the Vicks have got numbers to try and bring it away, and will do so. Craven, good handball. Across that time to Brendan Dobson, and Dobson goes wide. McElwain's the target. He's playing a good third quarter, this guy, and marks well in front of Doyle. Finds in the centre a teammate here all on his own in Butterfant, who's been a good player since he came on. They're taking the long way home. They've gone wide to Terry Love, who's running off that wing, and Love tries to find Hando. Here's danger once this guy gets the ball. He's tackled. Feeds it off, though, toward Murray. Hand pass inboard was good to Stacey, and Stacey goes for home with the right foot. Could be marked on the line by the Vicks here, or has it been touched through? He was touched through that time, and just 1 point as Steve Cooper came on the scene late. So that scoreboard indicates the Vicks have kicked 4 behinds and WA have kicked 3 in the third quarter. And it has the Vicks in front by 3 points, now 4 after that last score. Well, it's going to be Craven to win the ball after the kick out and drive here toward the big fellow coming out in Johnny Walsh, who's had a quiet quarter. He's well tackled by O'Loughlin, and WA have got numbers to try and clear again and do so. The target would have been Cleary, but out came a very dangerous player when he's on the run in Michael Rolfe. His pass isn't a good one. Didn't give Hando too much of a chance. Vicks were waiting at the back, but it just wouldn't bounce correctly for that player coming in there. And we're going to see another rushed behind resulting. That takes VCFL to 7-18, WA 8-7.
5 points to the Vicks for this quarter. Nobody seems to be able to put the ball through the centre of the sticks, and perhaps the next team to do so will gain the ascendancy, but it's still nip and tuck here at Deakin Reserve Shepparton for this Tooheys Cup match, as Andrew Crook for Western Australia finds his teammate in the centre of the ground, and they play on. Crook again with the ball. Up to centre half forward, looking for the big boy, and finds him too. Gee, that was good football from Western Australia. And it leaves Ditchburn, or is that Ditchburn? No, it was Wright, Lee Wright, the centre half forward, and he had a player right in the full forward line, but decided that he'd back his aim, and he's gone back for a kick around about 45 metres from goal. Has the big chance to put one on the board. The kick, and it looks pretty good too from here.
Oh, glorious.
And there it is, a beautiful kick. Lovely kick indeed, and that's his third goal. Great play from Lee Wright, the centre half forward for the Western Australian countryside. Gee, he's a big boy. Had a look at him in the rooms before the game, and look at the thighs on him. He's a great player, and he has really played very well today for the Western Australian country team. Here's the kick, very deliberate kick, very similar to Ken Murray, and a great kick of the football to take the Western Australian team on to 9 goals 7, 61 to the Victorian country, 7 goals 18, 60. 1 point the difference.
16 minutes gone of the quarter. Only 1 point separating them, as Rod Kilgour told you beforehand. Craven with the ball for Victoria. Gets it high. Gives a chance now for the high marks. Across the top of the pack there was Ken Murray. Couldn't punch it to the ground. He's now going to move his way back up to the forward zone. This is where Victoria have been doing exceptionally well. Plenty of pressure being put on Craven out there, the little Victorian. And it's been forced over the line and out of bounds there by the West Australian across that far side. Noel Bairstow.
He's been a quiet achiever. He's been pretty tough on that half-back line.
We probably haven't given him a lot of credit, but whenever there's a West Australian player at the fall of the ball or underneath the pack, you'll often come up with Bairstow, the last one to hand the ball to the umpire. The boundary throw-in right in front of the scoreboard, opposite side of the ground. Here's a chance now for West Australia through Tommy Pearce. Pearce's kick doesn't travel far. It's intercepted by a Victorian. The running players come up from the back. David Butterfin charges his way through the centre of the ground, looking there for Walsh.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh, good mark taken there for West Australia by Hansen. The handball's on. They have now the running players out here on the corner of the square. Plenty of loose players for West Australia. It's Crognali. Crognali's kick, wanting to move it quickly down there to Ditchburn. He's bundled out of the way. And also in there for Victoria, for West Australia was Big Jeff Hooper. With plenty of weight being used by the Victorian backline at the moment, as there's still plenty of action happening down on the boundary line.
The change will be from the Victorian side, and that's Terry Love coming off and Francis Burke replacing him, so that's an interesting one.
Gee, that is interesting, John. I can't have that, but because I thought Terry Love was instrumental, basically, at the far side of the ground of getting Victoria to into access into the goal square. Here we go again, Victoria into attack. This time Stacey has a couple of goals to his credit. There's been plenty of moves around, as you heard before. Good tackle put on the West Australians there by Michael Rolfe for the Victorian side. Into the open spaces again. Charging through there is Paul Hogarty. Hogarty's kick, and it's kick for kick going back from one end of the square to the other is Hansen. The fresh player on the ground for the West Australian side gets it out wide, finds the running player here in Crognali, who gets it moving quickly. But here's a chance for the little fellow in Craven, probably one of Victoria's best so far. And a good kick for a little fellow too. Up there looking for Beck. It fell to the ground. It wasn't Beck, it was Hogarty by the look of it. But here's a chance now for Murray as he lumbers in towards the goal. I didn't see where that came off the boot, but it came off the boot of Beck. I think it was Tony Beck, and Tony Beck has notched his first. And I said a little bit earlier on, without meaning to repeat myself, that I thought this fellow here, if he could fire, and having the experience that he's had, right, of being able to direct traffic out there for Victoria.
Well, I thought that was about the best passage of play we've seen this quarter. A great goal from that boy, as you can see. He screwed it around beautifully off his boot. He knew where the goals were all the time and made no mistake about it. A very, very nice goal indeed by the boy from Stawell, of course, from the Wimmera League.
They'll be jumping in Stawell, and here's Don Kilgour
Actually, I think
jumping
he's
on the
changed to
boundary
Matera, actually. But
Western Australians have made a move too with change there. Number 10 is coming onto the ground, Brett Marsden, replacing number 15, Mick Cleary. Just looking at the Victorian bench, fellas, they're somewhat frustrated at this stage. Stewie Gull standing up, he's yelling out at his players, and I think rather disappointed at their performance because they just can't forge ahead.
Well, 20 minutes into the third quarter, and it's still nip and tuck at the moment. There's only 5 points separating these two sides, and that's what we like. A good, tight tussle of football here in this Tooheys Challenge for 1988. Game still could go either way. The free kick here is going to Gary Odgers for the Victorian side. I almost said Ballarat, but that's where he's from. Odgers kicking towards the centre of the ground, grabbing hold of a player with one hand as McElwain, trying to have a swib at it with the boot as another. Here's Craven. His kick smothered. Plenty of tight tackling going on at the moment. Stacks on the mill. Now the handballs come out from Kent into the open spaces. Too small. Crognali on that occasion. Punched forward by Victoria. Very scrambly football. Here's a chance for Love. Gets boot to ball. Finds teammate on the far side of the ground, and it's his captain in Mick Lenehan. Lenehan from 48 metres out should drive it in towards the square. He's going to get it moving quickly. Who's at the back of the pack? Oh! Well, Hando was up a mile at the back of the pack, and I thought was going to take the grab, but in front it was the big long arms there of Johnny Walsh. So it could have gone either way. We might be able to catch it on replay later on, but gee, for mine, Hando had his name written all over it. But Johnny Walsh has got the size and the strength in front. The big John Walsh will kick from 30 metres out. 65-degree angle. Has a chance now to put the big V's ninth on the board. 8-18 at the moment. Is this their ninth? Comes in. Lumbers in. Goal umpire goes to a little bit to one side, but that's straight enough for mine. That's split the woodwork. So they now go on to 9-18-72. West Australian Football League at the moment still trailing. You heard Don Kilgour say before about Stuart Gull. You can see him there on your screen. And if you can lip read, Good luck to you. You can probably know more about what's going on than what we can.
I tell you what, he's a character, Stewie Gull, one of the great characters of country football. And that's Victoria's biggest lead now for about an hour in this match. And they've gone on to an 11-point break, a handy one. We said fitness might have a fair bit to do with it at the half-time. Let's just have a look how well the Western Australians run out this third quarter. Could give us a very good idea about the future outcome of this match as the Vicks through Craven attempt to win it out of the centre. Love, good handball, and they're away through Captain Lanigan. And Lanigan becoming pretty dominant. Long kick to fall forward. It goes to the back. Danger. Hando's got it. Hand passes inboard to Maryborough's McElwain. McElwain to the goal square. The tackle on Walsh was a beauty. And Lewis sees it through for one behind.
That pretty quick.
What else could he do?
I'll tell you what, that tackle on that boy Walsh was a critical one because he only had to turn around and kick a major, and they really made sure he couldn't get his foot to the ball.
Here's three-quarter time. Have a look at that scoreboard. 9-19.
It's incredible, isn't it? A lot of points are being kicked by the Victorians. They just don't seem to be able to find the big opening, but can they find it here as the kick goes right through? Yes, they found it. And that came right back there, I think, from Terry Love, was it?
The play came from Love, but I think you might find that it's come off the boot there of Hendo.
Was
it Hendo or Odgers that's going back?
Odgers. It was Gary Odgers. It was Gary Odgers in the end. By Joes, he came up from the half-back line. He obviously read the play beautifully, and he kicked that long goal for his first goal. Gary Odgers, first goal for the big game. He played very quietly early, Odgers, but he seems to have come into it, certainly in this quarter. And the Victorian country team go to 10 goals, 19 to 9 goals, 7. That could be a critical one, Rob Gaylard.
Certainly could be. Gary Odgers has been quiet, but the other players that are the dangerous ones, the ones with experience, a little bit of VFL experience that can come in and turn the tide. The kick's on. Here's a chance now for Victoria to go further ahead, and it's come off the boot of Hendo on this occasion. That one straight through. That's their 11th. They go to 11-19-85, if my arithmetic is correct, to 9-7-61, and as quick as we say it, it's up there and you screen it wherever you may be watching through the Six Network. This is a great game of footy. Victoria now starting to get on top. We have a look on the replay. The kick is deliberate. Umpire signals all clear, and that's the VCFL's 11th.
Well, I'll tell you what, they're getting it out of the centre now, and that's becoming a real bugbear for the Western Australian half-back line. They've got no chance at the moment when the ball's coming down the ground so quickly. Don Kilgour's back on the boundary line. Don, what have you got for us?
Well, Shane, the Victorian bench changed their mind. We gave you that move a couple of minutes ago because I'm standing next to the interchange steward, and they gave us that move that you couldn't believe, Rob Gaylard, with the swapping of Love for Burke. They've now changed their mind, so things stay as they are.
Okay.
Well, Terry Love's been dominant so far in the quarter. Mick Lenihan, the captain of the VCFL side, has now gone down to the half-back line, and he defends well from that half-back flank. Now the running side of Victoria goes forward. The long raking kick to centre half forward in front as Hando again couldn't bring it to the ground. And here we find trying to pick it up here is Lenihan again on that far side of the ground at half forward. Good tackle put on the player there, Clint Hansen. We'll wait and see what's going to happen. I think the free kick will go West Australia's way, and it will go to Hansen. And he's on that true half-back flank. Goes for the shorts inland or inboard, and it goes to Kim Rogers, the big fellow, the big ruckman for West Australia. Gets it moving quickly to that half-forward flank. And West Australia look good when they get the ball moving quickly, and they find Lee Wright on that half-forward flank. 3 goals to Wright's credit in the quarter. Drives it down there looking for Ditchburn. He couldn't pick it up. Onto the ground. Now here's a chance for West Australia, just fumbling a little bit. Lachlan underneath there trying to get the handball out. Now here's a chance for Slater. Turns around and goes bang from 50. Let's have a look at the accuracy. No, it's offline. Another behind. So they now move on to 9-8-62. And they're trailing the Victorian Country Footy League 11-19-85.
Right, they did a major there too, the West Aussies. The Vicks have slipped away to a handy 4-goal break, nigh on lemon time here, and after the kick out, the mark's been taken by Hartney. He goes long with a good kick out that far wing, and the mark taken out here now by the big fellow in Chris Stacey from Koroit. He hand passes inboard, and it goes back now toward the Vicks again, and they're keeping position well on that far side as Hendo comes a long way down the ground to take a good grab.
BOG for mine.
I'd like to have a look at his stats in this quarter.
Playing a great game, and he's found Big John Walsh, who's coming right into the game after a quiet first half of this third term. He's marked in front of Hansen, and Big John Walsh is going to kick from 55 metres out. He's out on the far boundary line, and he'll go pretty close to putting this right in the square where McElwain's waiting. There's Walsh, right foot drop punt. They fly in the square, punched away by the Western Australian defender in Cooper. It was Tony Beck from Stall down there trying to get the grab, but didn't have the bulk there, and it's gone over for a throw-in off the behind post. So you'll see a throw-in now, right near that Tui's 2.2 sign. There it goes. Beck's in there. The tap down should come the way of the West Aussies. There's goal jumpers everywhere. And Kim Rogers feeds out a good handball, and the double play side is away. You saw that player go down very hard after he got rid of the ball. But good handball has seen the West Aussies through Slater and O'Loughlin get it down toward the half-forward line. It's a poorly placed kick, though, and Hartney's taken an easy mark. Hartney's handball, not such a good one, but it lets the Victorians get the ball running again, and they're doing it well as they fire down toward their half-forward line. Stacey was the target. He's got 2 to beat, however. One of those players is Andrew Cook of the Western Australian side. I just get the feeling the West Aussies are looking just a little bit tired in the last 5 or 10 minutes. I was just about to say the same thing. What surprised me, though, the big players for Victoria have found legs for some unknown reason, and they're starting to run all over the ground. They can sniff victory here at the dying stages of this third quarter. Play underway again. The handball's out off the hands here of O'Loughlin. Puts his big teammate Rogers under plenty of pressure, but here's a chance for them to go forward through Hansen. Hansen down to the half-forward flank. In front is Butterfant. Can't control it, and it goes over the line and out of bounds. Do you get the impression that perhaps the wheels might have fallen off the West Australian side at the moment?
I'm just wondering whether the fitness is taking over, and maybe it's been a continual pacey game here today, and I just wonder whether the Western Australian boys are perhaps fit enough. I think Victoria generally, their stage of fitness is probably a little more, and perhaps that league experience coming in with players like Odgers, who have had the league experience. Maybe this is the time when they show that they've been great players. That's why they were selected in league football. Let's face it, Victorian football's the greatest football in Australia, and these players who have had that experience, this is they can be counted when the chips are down.
You can tell where Rod Kilgour lives, can't you, eh? This is the greatest football here in Victoria. We saw Crognali over the line and out of bounds. I must admit, we'll have to agree with him, Shane, but we find big Alistair Ford here now for the VCFL on that true half-back flank. Inside 50 from that half-back flank, kicking up high. Good hands. Here we find another big player who's lifted his game in Walsh. Has he dropped the ball, or was he tackled after he got rid of it? The free kick's going to go Walsh's way, probably a little bit lucky, but he's got the leather. Now let's see what happens here. Walsh, right foot drop punch. He drops it to the boot awkwardly, but it's covered a country mile. We'll find a free kick that'll go the West Australian way here, and for mine it's got to go to Jeff Hooper. Jeff Hooper's almost on that half-back line. Right foot drop punt out here to centre wing. He's looking for his teammate in Kim Rogers. The big fellow is going to get the free kick anyhow, as we find a little altercation happening down here between Clint Hansen and Terry Love, and offering a little bit of assistance there at John Walsh. I wouldn't be arguing too much, young Hansen. Walsh is about 7 or 8 inches taller than you, and a man mountain for mine. There's the sign for three-quarter time. 11-19-85, a good quarter for the VCFL. They've fought their way back into this game, 9-8-62, and at the moment they are holding sway. On screen you saw there for that fleeting moment the coach of the West Australian Football League side. But first of all, I'll cross to you, Rod Kilgour, having a look, trying to sum it up, as we can see the West Australians looking pretty dejected on screen there, the coach and the runner. But how do you think Victoria got back into the game?
Well, it was their big players, as we mentioned earlier, who all of a sudden found legs. And this was probably indicative, and also some of the smaller players who'd been out of the game in the second quarter came into it, particularly Hando, who was very, very damaging up forward. But we'll summarise the game a little bit after the break. So we'll go back to the studio and come back and talk a little bit more about this big game at Deakin Reserve with the Tooheys Cup. Thanks, fellas.
Oh, yeah, that's it. That's it. That's it.
Well, good afternoon and welcome back to the Deakin Reserve here at Shepparton. This afternoon on screen, the West Australian coach, or the coach of the West Australian Country Football League representative side here at Shepparton this afternoon in Rob Howan. He's trying to urge his players on. They're trailing at the moment by 23 points. If you just joined us against the VCFL in this 1988 Tooheys Challenge, the two representative sides of country football from probably the most furthest parts of Australia at the moment. And perhaps we might have a look at some of the scores quarter by quarter. There was only 1 point in it in the first quarter. Then we found 7-13-55 to 8-4-52, and we found that West Australia were 3 points down. But in that quarter, the VCFL really came back. They showed what they were made of. It was a very, very worried Stuart Gull at half-time. At one stage down there, Shane Healy, we saw the interchange bench being utilised, probably not to its best capacity. Players were to be brought off the ground, and to me at stages, players that were playing exceptionally well. Then all of a sudden they were left on there, which to me gave me the indication about things weren't going according to plan.
I think you're right, and I think really the Vics only got on top in that last 7 or 8 minutes of that third quarter, and Gull was very, very worried man, I'd say, and still would be, because the West Aussies certainly aren't done for yet. I think we made a comment, each of us, late in the third quarter, that maybe fitness was beginning to tell. The Victorian camp just breaking up there now as I speak, and we'll get down and hear what Don found out from the two coaches shortly. We made the comment about the fitness and the fact that possibly the Vics were getting on top. But then again, if you look back, the Vics have had 30 scoring shots to 17, which probably gives one the impression the ball spent more time in Victoria's half than it has, say, in WA's half. But, well, it's only 4 goals isn't a great deal in modern footy, and if the WA side can get their act together again, if Ditchburn and Perham can start getting their hands around the ball up forward, and if they can keep the Handos and these smaller players quiet, Lenigan, gee whiz, he hasn't had anyone go near him all day. He must have had 25 touches. Then I think the WA side's still in with a chance. But the Vics have got the edge, and they'll probably go on from here.
Well, 85 playing 62. Both camps have broken up at the moment, and this large crowd starting to disperse off the ground. Don Kilgour was down there. I don't know who or which camp he was actually listening to, but we'll find out very, very shortly.
Stewie Gull was the fellow we were listening to over in the Victorian camp, and Stewie, as I said earlier, the Victorian boys a little bit frustrated, but certainly feeling better after the last couple of minutes in that quarter. But Stewie has told the boys that the Western Australians are stopping, and the Victorian boys are not contesting enough. He wants them to work harder, and for this quarter, short passes are definitely out. No short passes, just keep pushing the ball up towards goal, and he can see a victory coming up. So that's the way Stewie Gull sees it at this stage at three-quarter time.
Thanks very much, Don. Well, let's go to Rod Kilgour now, the younger brother, by half an hour, they tell me. But, Rod, we were talking a little bit about that beforehand. That's basically what was bringing Victoria undone in that early first quarter.
Yes, it was, yes. Too much fiddling around, particularly on the forward line, and they've gone for the big, longer kicks, and some of those big fellas who can really punch the ball a long way with their kicks, that's what they've been doing, and probably big Johnny Walsh particularly.
OK, Shane Healy, can you see West Australia getting back into the game?
Well, I was saying a moment ago, I think if the ball runs their way and if they can start just keeping these smaller players of Victoria a little bit quieter, Hando, Lenigan in particular, and possibly also in that centre area Beck, who was beginning to do quite well, then possibly the WA boys have got a chance. But the Vics, having established that lead, would certainly have to go into the final quarter of this 2 East Challenge as favourites to make it 2 wins in 2 years.
85 playing 62. The VCFL holding sway, but it's Slater for the West Australian side getting first possession of the ball after the bounce into the last quarter. Drives it up towards centre half forward. The kick comes out of the pack into the open spaces. Diving on it as Lewis tries to barge his way through, but the VCFL swoop on him as the ball comes out and the handball's on. Finds Hogarty. Hogarty's kick towards centre wing. He's out there looking for his teammate in Love. West Australia have possession of the ball. The handball's out, but it's a wobbly on one. And now we find Victoria going forward again. Love running up the ground on that far side. Is it Love or Hogarty again, covering plenty of territory? The tackle's on, and he's been forced over the line and out of bounds as McLenaghan now comes up with the ball. Trying to tell the umpire that I was tackled before I actually had hands on it, but the free kick's gone West Australia's way. The ball on the far side of the ground, city side here of this Deakin reserve. Underway again towards centre wing. Big arms go up there of Big Alistair Ford and has brought the ball to the ground again. Been probably a telling factor after half-time as Ford been dropping back into that back line, taking that big towering mark, or coming from behind. If you can't get both hands on it, as any good coach will tell you, you must punch the ball forward from that back line instead of trying to mark with the forwards. This time the mark has gone to West Australia, and it's the little fellow over there in O'Loughlin. And I know Shane Healy's been a big rap for him throughout the day.
He's played a good game, O'Loughlin, a boy who's played a couple with the West Coast Eagles. This kick's not such a good one at all, and there's the big fellow again taking the mark, getting the hand pass quickly across to Rolfe. Rolfe goes long, and a chance there for a mark to the Victorian side. Up went Tony Beck. He couldn't hold on to it, but it's fed out now to Craven and on to Walsh, and this could be the first nail in the coffin if Walsh kicks correctly. And Walsh has put that right through the high little down there at the city or western end of the ground. John Walsh, the boy from Traralgon, has now got 2 for the day as we get a shot of the crowd there. Someone enjoying a nice quiet one. And it's 12-19 and 91 now, Victoria, leading Western Australia 9-8-62. And Walsh put that on the right foot beautifully. The goal umpire didn't move. He only went back and looked at it going over his head. And the Vics are now in front here by 29 points. And that's a pretty handy break at the 3-minute mark of the final quarter.
Well, that's Johnny Walsh's first goal so far in the game, Rod Kilgour. And, well, 2 actually.
Yes, he started off slowly, Rob, but he's played very, very well in the third quarter, and he's really coming into it there, as we see with the ball once again. Puts it over to Michael Rolfe. The boy who knows the Deakin Reserve pretty well. He won a Goulburn Valley League Third's Best and Fairest 18 award here, and he goes forward looking for Lenigan, but the ball's forced over the boundary line, and we wait a throw in. Michael Lenigan has played a very serviceable game. He's in many occasions he's grabbed that ball and taken it down the field today.
His disposal today hasn't been as exemplary as it usually is, but geez, had the ball a lot.
Yes, a bit like Brian Dixon, as they used to say. Couldn't kick, but gee, he got the ball 30 times a match. The ball from the boundary, and there's Lenigan as we speak. The disposal wasn't over good, but here's Danny Craven, has the chance. No, it's punched away by Slater, and Western Australia
Good
come
hands.
out of defence again. Good football from Clint Hansen. A kick from Hansen over in front of the scoreboard wing off. There's only two of them there, and the Western Australian boy couldn't get his hands to it though, but eventually he does. Follows up very nicely, coming forward. Oh, there's a bit of a push there, but beautiful football there from Brendan Dobson. Sees the Victorian boys come forward once again. There's the kick over to the centre of the ground, and who's there? Chris Stacey, the boy from Koroit, and Stacey's kick on the right foot over there looking for his captain, but can't handle it though, and fine defensive football from Noel Bairstow. Sees the ball over back into the centre, and they're playing with it a little bit, Western Australia at the moment, but having difficulty getting it forward. The little fella Hando for mine best on the ground today. Can't handle the ball, but big Alistair Ford gets his boot to it. Nobody seems to be able to pick it up for the Vics. A player ridden to the ground there, but it's Glenn O'Loughlin, one of the better players for the Western Australian team, endeavouring to put the ball forward.
The West Australian side just seem to be struggling to keep their feet. Now, whether it's tiredness or not, I don't know. I wouldn't say that the ground is greasy, Don.
No, I was just thinking that in this just first couple of minutes of the last quarter, the tempo of the game has slowed quite remarkably.
The umpire has the ball at centre-half forward for West Australia. A chance for them to go forward here off Marsden. It's his kick smothered. Victoria put the handball out, but it's intercepted here by Doyle. It is for West Australia. Now they bring the ball forward to centre-half forward, and chipping in and taking a nice mark there is Brendan Hartney. Serviceable. Game from Hartney. The handball's on. Out wide. Out to Hogarty. Been a good player so far in the early stages of this quarter. 5 minutes we've travelled. 91 playing 62. The VCFL are holding sway here at the moment. The handball's on for West Australia off Hooper. Hooper gets the handball to a teammate, and they drive it inboard towards the edge of the 50-metre line, but a good mark taken by Brendan Hartney. Plenty of handball being used at the moment. Hartney's goes inboard again, and we find here Butterfant. A remarkable recovery for this bloke to be on the ground, but Butterfant's kicks down here towards centre-half forward, and a good strong mark taken here for Victoria. They get it moving quickly, and a mark taken by Lenihan. Gee, that one would have knocked the tops off the daisies, but Lenihan plucked it up off the ground. Now he's 48, 47 metres out from goal. McLenihan, we'll see what sort of an accurate kick he is for goal. I don't think he has one for my record so far today. This could be his first. It's a beautiful kick, but it's offline, I think. Umpire agrees, and that's a point to the VCFL, so they now go on to 92, playing 62, 30 points the difference. No, it's a goal. Well, I saw him put one flag up and one hand up against the post, so it's a goal. Let's cross down to the boundary line. John Kilgour's got more moves for us.
Yes, the Western Australians are bringing a bit of height and certainly strength back onto the ground, boys, because big Kim Rogers, number 27, has just come onto the ground and replacing Clint Hansen, number 9.
Well, we're all sitting stunned here at the moment for the goal umpire's decision. We saw it on replay there. It looks a little bit easy when you look at it the second time. But we're going to be Phil once for the day. Ball back in the centre of the ground. The big fellow in Rogers gets it out to a teammate wide. Here's Slater, trying hard to pick his legs up out of the ground. He gets out of it well, though. Dodges around, gets the handball, but only putting players under pressure further up the ground. Good tackle from Victoria. Love has it snatched from out of his hands. The big fellow there in forward makes way for his teammate there in Hando, and Hando gets the ball moving in towards the centre. Here's a chance for Hogarty again. Almost caught one too high for his corner, but bundled into the ground after it. Here's Butterfant, clever football, looking down there for a teammate, finding him too, and Hodges, he's well down from the back line. Here's a handball off the hands of Stacey, inland again. Gee, they're fiddling around with it. Back to Hodges. Hodges finds a gap. Now back to a teammate. Here's a chance from 45. Let's have a look at this one. That's got to be touched, or is there a mark on the line? We'll wait for the goal umpire. He signals it's touched. And the long arms went up there of Steve Cooper for the West Australian side. And Chris Stacey also being a dominant player in this quarter. The kick-out finds its way to the edge of the square. Good kick-out that time from the West Australians, but it falls to the ground, and the VCFL have first possession of it. And it comes off Ken Murray's hands, down in towards the little fellow, and Graven has a snap. Is it going to swing back? It is, and another behind. So Victoria at the moment, Rod, doing plenty of attacking, but unfortunately it's not showing on the scoreboard.
No, that's true. They are looking forward each time they move the ball over the centre. They bring it forward, but at the moment, Murray's been held a little bit in this last quarter, but they're certainly, I believe, the fitness is telling for the Victorian side. That was a beautiful mark taken by Terry Love, and he's been one of Victoria's very best players since he came onto the ground into the second quarter, and he found the player that I mentioned has been a little bit quiet in Ken Murray, who's kicked 3 goals for the Victorian country and has a chance to put the 4th on the board. From this position, he's usually very accurate. He's around about 47, 48 metres out from goal, very deliberately approaches the ball. Oh, the kick's not a bad one. It looks as though it's swinging across a little low. And this time, it is a point, Rob. And Ken Murray has now about 3 goals, 3 to his credit. And we wait for the Western Australians to put the ball back in.
Well, Victoria look like Shane at the moment. We've travelled almost 9 minutes into the last quarter, but Victoria look like making it 2 in a row. But here's Butterfin coming off the ground. As you wouldn't believe it, he's limping on that leg.
I'm not surprised. He's done a good job. He must have picked up 6 or 8 or 10 possessions whilst he was on the ground. And if you'd seen him at Horsham last week, there's no possible way you could have said he would have lined up here today. A fine effort from that fellow. Well, after the kick out, we've seen a bounce down and a big thump away going Victoria's way. It's going to come the way of Murray. He couldn't come out and get that one, though. And the West Aussies are going to clear this time. Greg Doyle, who came onto the ground at half-time, a poor kick. Who's reading it? Lenigan's reading it. Beautifully done. Puts in an up and under. Going to be pretty hard, this one, to mark, but he's marked it all right. And let's check who that is. It looked like Hartney all the way down the ground, but it couldn't have been Hartney. He's up on the half back line. The pass has come across to McElwain. McElwain, the boy from Maryborough, onto the left foot. This is going to go pretty close. They might shepherd it through. Now it's off hands. And just the one behind.
How would Tony Beck be feeling down there at the moment? He's probably a little bit smaller than the backman down there, but being a full forward, he'd be relishing that out of the centre at the moment. I see him there trying to fly with the big fellows. Don Kilgar down on the boundary line. More changes, this time for the West Australian side. Looks like McCleary might be coming back on.
Actually, I was just going to tell you the gate takings today, fellas. $6,819 the crowd paid to see this game here this afternoon.
Fantastic. Well, almost $7,000. I'm sure the locals will be happy with that gate as the Vics drive into attack again. Down toward the true full forward position. Western Australia have got numbers and should be able to clear. Hand pass wasn't a particularly good one, but a kick off the ground lands the ball here with Pearce. He gets to the crossfield now toward a teammate in Hooper, who's running through the diamond. Goes long. Ditchburn or Perham will be the targets. But too big and too strong as Chris Martin played a good game and takes the mark and fires out the handball to Hogarth, who's away again. He goes wide to Love, who's had a picnic on the wing since he came on the ground. Young Kemper's coming off, and the boy Pearce or Cleary going back onto the ground. Now that kick found Big McElwain, or Ford it was. He got it across field, and the Vicks bringing it down the ground with consummate ease now. Hogarth to the goal square, and there's that man that Robert Gaillard mentioned, the pride of Stawell or Murtoa or the Wimmera. It's Tony Beck. He's been a magnificent footballer in that area now over a decade or more. And Tony Beck is going to have a shot here for his second goal of the day. It was a fine mark.
4 Toohey medals to Tony Beck, the best and fairest in the Wimmera Football League, and deserves his chance to turn around and represent the Victorian Country Football League here today.
Which he's done with aplomb.
Very handy little nudge there, I saw too, as he moved his player out. And a lovely goal from Tony Beck, and he shows the ability that he's had, and he's so very well thought of in that area, isn't
Educated, we call that little nudge, Rod. Educated, we call that. So well, Tony Beck turns round and puts his second on the scoreboard. 14-23, 107. The West Australian Country Football League trailing 9-8-62. And it looks like back-to-back victories for the VCFL here at the Deakin Reserve at Shepparton this afternoon.
I think the story is that since half-time, there's that goal going through again from Beck, quite an easy one. 7 goals, 10 to 1 goal 4 since half-time. Tells a bit of a story, I think, as the West Aussies try to win the ball out of the centre. In goes Cleary for them. Gone quiet since half-time. Did spend a little bit of time on the bench, but they've had a lot of good players in the first half, WA, but not too many goers since the long break, and that's been the story here at Deakin Reserve. The big crowd enjoyed a pretty high standard of footy, but now it's the Victorian countryside getting on top at the 13-minute mark of the final quarter. Up they go, and that's Big Rogers doing some heavy work. Fires out a very poor hand pass, really, which put his teammate Pearce under plenty of pressure, and the kick's gone right down the throat of the Vicks again, and they'll bring it away from that defensive area. A long kick out looking for McElwain on the grandstand wing. Hand pass from Lewis finds Slater, and Slater running through the diamond, driving to the true centre half forward, and that's a strong Western Australian mark up there at the true centre half forward position, taken by Ross Ditchburn. So the captain of the Western Australian side, he hails from Central Great Southern League in the Western Australian country areas. Played a number of seasons with Carlton. Lines up from 45 metres out directly in front. That's a fine kick from Ditchburn. Not too many have moved down there on the goal square, and that means that the West Aussies have got their first goal since midway through the third quarter. It's been a long time between drinks for them. Ditchburn's got his second of the afternoon. And on the Channel 6 scoreboard now, the famous Tooheys Challenge Cup scoreboard sees Western Australian Country 10-8, 68, trailing Victorian Country 14-23, 107.
I don't want to sound negative about Ditchburn, but I've been a little bit disappointed in him. He's as a player of great ability. Maybe we're not giving enough kudos to Brendan Dobson, who's played him negatively and played him pretty well all day.
Well, we mentioned that a little bit earlier on. I think you've got to give credit to the likes of Dobson and also Hartney. But it's hard to say at the moment as we find a little fellow there in Marsden for West Australia almost had his head pulled off his shoulders, but he's going to take the free kick in the centre of the ground. But the back line for the VCFL have played pretty well all day. And talking of players playing well, there's Hartney now. But Love comes in, does his homework, butters up well and gets the ball out here to the open spaces of centre wing. Got plenty of speed, this fellow here in Rolfe. Gets the ball out here looking for his teammate who just can't quite pull it in. And the big fellow down there is Johnny Walsh. But he impresses me. Michael Rolfe has a ton of speed when he gets into those open spaces. Uses the ball well.
He's a classy footballer, Robert. He's made a big difference to the Castlemaine Football Club in the Bendigo League this year. They haven't won a premiership for 35 years down there, and I think they might do it this year. 14 minutes into the last quarter. It looks like, whoa, that was the best throw you've ever seen in your life come from Slater. Umpire didn't see it. He's on the blind side, but the ball's going to be gone back here or brought back here. A free kick will go to Tommy Pearce. Now, Tommy Pearce, solid little fellow, is going to take the free kick almost on centre wing grandstand side. And looks pretty tired to me. I think he's got a few mates out there this afternoon, Shane. Good kick, though, from Pearce. Looking for his teammate in there in Hanson. Couldn't do so, but it's to ground level. Now, a chance for him to come back into attack again through Marsden. Left foot, looking for the pass. Who's he looking for up there? Ditchburn's underneath it. Couldn't do, or couldn't get hand or both hands to it anyhow. But he's the tackle is on. It was a good tackle that time. Come from Lee Wright, actually, I gave the credit to. Didn't give up. Wright's got another chance now. He gets it inland towards a teammate here in O'Loughlin. The little fellow blazes from 45, but it's offline. Yeah, Lee Wright, I got mixed up there with Ditchburn. And even though beaten for the ball, he didn't give up. He kept battling on and tackled his opposition player and brought to the ground. I thought it was an excellent tackle and deserved a free, actually.
I just wonder whether the Vics have looked at the scoreboard and said, we've won this, boys, and they're just taking it a little bit easy at the moment.
Craven out here to Rolfe, into the back of his teammate there, but he's letting play go on. I would think it'd have to go back. Yes, the free kick is going to go back, and it's going to go here to number 16, Michael Rolfe. Yeah, we won't be able to see him use his speed here because he's going to be kicking from behind the man on the mark. Not too happy, Mick Cleary, the West Australian, on that occasion. Probably a little bit stiff too. The position didn't go the other way. The kick from Rolfe is good. Oh, good grab at the back of the pack there from Patterson. Patterson came off the interchange bench in the quarter. Gets it across to a teammate. Over the top this time of Cleary. The ball's going to go over the line and out of bounds right in front of our commentary position. 107 playing 69. 16 minutes gone of the last quarter.
Yes, it looks like Victoria should have this game parcelled up at the moment. I don't think that Western Australia can come back. I don't think that there's enough running in the legs of the Western Australian country boys. But there's a player who's been trying very hard, and that was Big Kim Rogers for Western Australia. And nobody seems to be able to pick the ball up but Danny Craven, who's played a great game from the Ovens and Murray players are there, and McElwain can't handle it. Well, going through there was a couple of players pretty tough. Eventually Marsden, it's kicked down over centre half forward to his teammate on the half forward flank, who marks it very nicely, and that was Noel Bairstow. No, it wasn't. Sorry, it was Perham, who's played a pretty serviceable game. He sees his teammate over there too, and Mick Cleary, who's been one of the better players for the Western Australian country side, on the half forward flank with a chance to put the Western Australia's 11th goal on the board. Not a bad looking kick. He swung back in. That was a decent sort of, if that was a cricket ball, it would be a double swinger. I think that was a great goal, and that was the 11th goal on the board for Western Australia. A belated return, but however, at this stage, I don't think they can come up. Stewie Gull yelling out there, making a couple of more changes, but I think he could be well satisfied with the way that the Victorian boys have done so far.
Well, Victoria You can see that goal going through. Leg break, we'd call it, Shane Healy.
It was a great goal, that one. It really did. And the ball's been swinging the other way at the far end, so I just wonder if the breeze isn't swinging around. You're going to check a score there, Robbie. 14-23, 107 to 11-9, 75. Has the Vicks in front by 32, and WA has won it away from the centre again. And Brendan Hartley marked it anyway after being held. He's a class footballer, this fellow. He's played a pretty serviceable game on that back line. Kick wasn't a good one to his Bendigo League teammate in Rolfe. Chipping in was Cleary, and Cleary's put it right down the throat of Perham. And the WA side running on pretty well on the latter stages of this match as Perham chips across the ground and finds
Can't see the value of something like that, though, Shane, to be quite honest. I mean, now he was inside 50. Now we're going to see his teammate kick outside it.
Well, Pierce sounds like a good Irishman with that sort of a name. And he's kicked it like an Irish Gaelic footballer too. Out of bounds on the full. Now it's bounced over. Just might have even been touched as it went over there. And we're going to see a throw in deep forward pocket for the Western Australian Country League, who are down by 32 points, trailing 11-9, 75 to 14-23, 107. The Vicks in front in the Tooheys 1988 Bicentenary Challenge. Here's a chance for Crognali. He's going to kick from an impossible angle. Don't tell me. Oh, that's a fantastic goal from Crognali. He kicked that from almost right on the behind post. And on the right foot, he snared it through the middle. We'll have a look at the replay in a moment, I hope, about that one. That was a beauty. And Crognali has been a good goer all day. Has got his first of the afternoon, and the Western Australian side fighting back here. As we take a look at the replay, he was right on the behind post. He would have run right into it if he'd gone another step further. And there's the two fingers going up. So WA to 12-9 now, 81. Trailing Victorian Country 14-23, 107. And the ball's back in the centre with Rogers tapping down to O'Loughlin. WA playing better in the last few moments. Oh, fine mark. Is it Perham again? No, it's Slater who got up that time. The boy with the beard out there. Looks like Gastev from the Eagles, this fellow. And Slater goes long. He'll be hoping for a WA mark. And it's not paid, but it might fall for them. Goal coming up. And was it Crognali again? I fancy it was. And WA have come back now to within only 20 points with the score 13-9-87. Crognali gets his second in a matter of 1 minute. And it's Victoria 14-23, 107. And he read that off the pack beautifully, Robert.
Yes, good goal there from Crognali. Rod, I was just going to say, we've probably got 10 minutes of football, 8 minutes of football left to go. We see Crognali snag that one through. You see the West Australians getting back into it.
Well, I was sitting here smugly saying Victoria had it wrapped up, and now I think I might have to eat my words if they continue on like this, and I think that the Victorian bench might be just a little bit concerned at the moment.
And I believe it's happening because they're beginning to get it out of the centre now, Rod, whereas the Vicks for a period there in the third quarter as we see Stewie go. And at the back right-hand corner of the box there is Mark Patterson. He's the secretary of the Victorian Country Football League. Looks like he's taking stats for Stewie this afternoon. They'd have every reason just to be a little bit worried now because the WA boys have come right back hard, but they're getting it out of the centre. And gee, it makes a difference when you can get that one clear kick into your forward line. It puts so much pressure on the opposition defence.
Francis Burke back on the ground for the VCFL. Rob Howan on your screen from the West Australian camp there. A couple of smiles, a couple of dejected looks. But they're still not out of this game. We've got 7 or 8 minutes of play left. And this 1988 Tooheys Challenge, there'll be a little bit of it, I think, put away tonight after a few of these players look a little bit leg-weary. Here's the kick, Victoria into attack. And waiting down there, the little fellow in Craven. And the crowd underneath us comes alive. Must have his own cheer squad, little Danny Craven. He has a chance now to really sew this up for mine. I reckon this one, if he can steer it through, could break the West Australians. They had a bit of a sniff before. They thought they could go on with this. As the clock ticks away, let's see what Craven does with it. 30 metres out from goal. Right foot drop punch on its way. His Victorian teammates think it's good. So does the goal umpire. That's their 15-23. Now have gone to 113 to the West Australian Country Football League, 13-9-87.
The many Ovens and Murray fans watching this telecast this afternoon can be pretty proud of Danny Craven. Rob, he's played a great game and he's capped that one off. It was his first goal for the day, but he's been a very busy little player.
Actually, he has been a good player. Craven has had a few mates, though. That's why Victoria are on the scoreboard in the way they are. Although indirect kicking, 23 points. Could have, if they well, they haven't lost the game, but if they did lose the game, you would turn around and put it down to that. Here's West Australia again into attack. They've got a sniff of it. He's done well, Marsden, too, in this quarter. But it's in that last line of defence. Victoria holding up well. Out to the open spaces is Lenehan. The captain of the VCFL side has a look. Good experience. Looking for someone. Beck's in front, but taking it up the back as Walsh. Look at the big fellow go. His confidence is up. He's had a bounce. Look from 45 metres, but it's offline. Oh, the big fellow there, as we see a little dog run onto the ground, chasing the boundary umpire. I hope he doesn't snap at the ankles. But, gee, that was good football there from Walsh. Beck came out, made position, it went straight across the top of him, and Walsh waiting there like a rover. Turned around and racing in a goal.
He showed some toe to the big fellow, and he's had a pretty good game, especially after half-time. Kicked 2 big ones. Cleary's going to make this kick out, and he's running inside the diamond. He'll traverse the diamond now. The long, searching drop punt. Lewis, held without the ball, surely. No free kick. Hartney takes it. And good play, Hartney, receiving the handball and bringing it wide to Michael Rolfe. And these are the conditions Rolfe loves, when he can run down the wing. He sends a piercing drop punt toward the half-forward line. Nearly a WA mark. In for support goes Greg Doyle. He got a shove. No free kick. And the umpire says, throw it in. No, now he's going to pay a free kick.
Good decision, too.
Well, I thought it was a bit of academy there, myself. We'll beat the differ on that one.
I saw a pair of hands right on his butt. Give him a little edge across the line anyhow.
The free kicks to Bairstow. Played a good game. Sorry, Rod Kilgour.
I was just going to say, Brendan Hartney, he was a player. I was very critical of him early. I thought he was too slow, but the experience is showing, and he's playing very well in this last term.
He would have to be in Victoria's best 5, I think. He's played a magnificent game, Hartney. He hasn't done too much wrong, as Lenigan still running like a machine, drives it down to the half-forward line. The target down here is Kenny Murray. Murray goes back, goes bang, and this might just be offline. Gee, it carried some distance, that on the run. 50 metres, just put it onto his foot and went bang, did Murray. But this time he's just offline. And Victoria's scoreline doesn't read all that well. 15-25, 115. WA Country 13-9-87 as we see the kick out coming to the broadcast or grandstand side. They're not stopping the WA boys. There's little Don Crognali, the boy from the Southwest League in Western Australia. He takes the mark, drives down the wing. Up they go. That's a strong, good mark taken by Alistair Ford. And he's done as much as he's had to do today. I suppose that's the best way to describe it.
He reminds you a little bit of a fellow called Don Disher.
He does,
yes,
actually.
He does, from Ballarat.
Okay, let's have a look at Ford's kick. It's down into their attacking zone to half-forward, or spun out of the pack beautifully there, Ken Murray. What's he done with it? It's come inboard again. Here's a chance now for McElwain to finish off the good work. McElwain's kick across to Love. Is it on his own? Terry Love has a look. Centre half forward. Nobody home. Danny Craven takes the mark as easy as you like. And Craven now has a chance to put his second goal on the board. His first came about 3 minutes ago. This is the chance for his second of the quarter. The VCFL looking for their 16th. We'll just stay with Danny Craven for a moment and see whether or not he can notch up the Victorian 16th goal. Comes in, the right foot on its way, and that one straight through the woodwork. Let's go down to Don Kilgour.
The Western Australian boys have made a change. They've brought a bit of pace onto the ground. And, Dean Kemp from the Goldfields, and he's replaced number 17, Clayton Lewis. So it's Kemp from Lewis.
Thank you very much, Don.
I wonder who won
a
the
little bit
raffle.
of competition. I wonder who won the raffle, yeah. He hasn't got time to check his ticket anyhow, but play underway again, or just about to go underway again. Shane Healy, looks like as if the VCFL definitely this time have got back-to-back. We're now what we might term into red time, into time on.
Just in at red time, Robert Gaillard. We have got a margin of 34 points going the way of the Vicks, and they are home here. There's no doubt about that. O'Loughlin wins the kick out of the centre, but straight down the throat of the Vicks again. And this time it's Brad Nichols going wide and finding a teammate in Michael Lenigan. They just won't go near Lenigan. And Lenigan gets his umpteenth kick long. The target will be Walsh, but it's a WA mark at the back, and a good one too. Taken this time by Aaron Beaver from the Ongerup League. And he goes wide. Don't you dare ask me where the Ongerup League is. Anyway, it's Victoria winning position again. Love, a short pass in, and he's found a teammate here. And it's a Victorian mark taken by Jeff McElwain, who's playing for Maryborough in the Ballarat League this year and having a pretty good season. Of course, Maryborough playing a big game this afternoon against Golden Point as the pass comes into David Hando, who's had a quiet last quarter but was certainly best on the ground for the first three and would have to be in your top couple of VCFL players in this win because he was there when the work had to be done in setting up the victory. Margin 34 points. Hando 25 metres out. Pretty acute angle. Right foot. He lays back. He's offline and a mark to WA on the goal line. A little bit lucky, I thought. Rogers over the top of Walsh. I thought both players had purchase on the ball, but the umpire was closer. And we're going to see big Kim Rogers, who comes from the Avon League, to kick up the half-back flank on the broadcast side. Nearly a good mark. A little bit of shoving in the pack anyway. Patterson's going to take it. Free kick to Patterson, who hasn't done enough for mine for his size. He's going to run around the Victorian captain, Lenigan, and then put a shocking kick in. McElwain gets it. Almost throws it across field here toward Gary Odgers. Odgers on well. The pass was to Stacey. Stacey can go to Murray. They're lair-rising. Murray to Hando. Hando to Love. And Love kicked under pressure when he needn't have. There was four players who could have had a shot before him. And Love is offline for one behind. So Victorian Country in the Tooheys Challenge, 27 minutes last quarter, leading 16-26-122 to Western Australian Country, 13-9-87.
That was a big Western Australian kick right out to the diamond, but who was there but Love, who's played a magnificent game today. And also that little player in Danny Craven, hasn't he been a real terrier? So's that player. By gee, they've got some good players in the forward line now. There's no doubt about that, the Victorian Country, and we've in the last couple of minutes, the dying minutes of the game, but the Victorian boys are not standing on their laurels, and that's a very nice kick. It's going to go through, is it? It's going to be... Yes, it's going to be a point, unfortunately, for the Victorian boys, but they've got it well parcelled up this game, and they move now on to 16 goals, 27, 123, to 13 goals, 9, 87. Only some probably 2 to 3 minutes of play left in this game.
Well, the kick out will be taken again as the player on the mark there, Tony Beck, was just a little bit too close. Technically, should that not be a kick further up the ground?
I'm not sure about that one, but anyway, it wasn't on this occasion, Ross.
That's what, I'm sorry to put you under pressure there, Shane.
You sure did.
West Australia put it out right in front of our commentary position. Underneath the ground, or underneath the pack there is Patterson. Rod Kilgour talk about him a little bit earlier on, but has come on and off the interchange bench throughout the day as we get into the dying stages of this game.
Well, I'll be talking about us at home now, all the armchair experts saying that Garlard and Healy want to look up their rule book.
Oh, well, it makes it all interesting. West Australia have possession. The little fella, Crognali, had a couple of sniffs up on the goal square. He's now down on the half-back line. He got a couple, but here's a chance now play on. The ball would actually thrown out to him that time off the hands of Patterson, but he'll go back and take his kick, and it's O'Loughlin, Glenn O'Loughlin, the vice-captain of the West Australian team, about to play on. Sells the hand pass well. Patterson, they're going to muck it up. Now it comes out the back. They're lucky to get away with this. Comes off the boot of Big Kim Rogers, and they drive it up towards centre half forward. But here's Big Ford. 1, 2, 3, 4 grabs. Thank you. I'll have it. And the umpire pays the mark. And been a very, very reliable ruckman come backman this afternoon. His kick's long, high. Oh, gee, Hando got up before acceptances. The handball's on here. Now he elects to kick it down into the square. Murray racing back, or is it Beck? It went straight through Beck's arms. You don't do that too often, Tony Beck, but we'll let you have one mistake for the day. Here's the big fellow, Walsh, roving it like a little fellow. Comes back out to Wodgers. The handball's on from Wodgers. Back out to Hando. Hando has a look from 45. Thank you. That's a sealer for mine. And the VCFL now put their 17th on the scoreboard. That makes the point score look a little bit better. 17-27, 130. And they are leading the West Australian Football League 13-9-87. Actually, my arithmetic might be incorrect. It's 129 on your screen, not 130.
We'll let you off for 1 point, Robert Garlard. It's late in the afternoon, and the margin now is a pretty handy 42 points as that goal came through. Almost too easy, that one from David Hando. And he has represented his magnificent North Central Football League with great distinction today. Played a great game as O'Loughlin wins it out of the centre. Been a busy player. He drives to Ditchburn at centre half forward. A hand pass comes across to Tommy Pearce, and Pearce goes long. This one's bounced the wrong way. And it took a little leg break, did it, in cricket parlance, and went the wrong way and through for the one behind. So that takes the WA side to 13-10-88 and Victoria 17-27. 1-2-9. Who they're going to look for on the kick out here? The big fellow out wide in McElwain. He couldn't hold the mark. It's 2-on-2 out there. The ball's going to spill to Terry Love at the back. He's got young Kemp on his tail. He feeds it out further, and good support forthcoming as the handball goes down the far wing. They will not go near Lenigan. He has not had a player within 20 metres of him all day. His kick was a bad one that time and fell down the throat of Crook, who got it across field that time to Hooper. And away go the WA side, up toward the half-forward line, coming out in front of Victoria to try and win it away. Love's doing some good work down there. Now, which way is he going to go? He's almost playing catch me if you can. Decides to go to his left foot now. Kicks it long. 2 WA players up against one another there. One of those was big Craig Patterson from the Eastern District League, and he's got the mark out there on the far side of the ground. He goes in short and finds Andrew Crook, and Crook will pierce the forward line. Full forward, up they go. Perham's up. Couldn't take the mark. Down on the ground was Francis Burke to bring it away, and Francis Burke is going to try and go across the ground as the siren goes. And that is a win to Victoria in the Tooheys Challenge Cup. There's the Victorian camp. We're going to take a break and be back here shortly at the Deakin Reserve in Shepparton on the Channel 6 Football Network.
Well, it's been a great game of football here at the Deakin Reserve this afternoon, where the Victorian Country Football League have now won back-to-back titles in the 2 Challenge. You can see a rather happy camp down there, Shane Healy, and I think Stuart Gull would be a relieved man, because prior to the game he was as nervous as a kitten, and at about three-quarter time Victoria didn't look good things to turn around and win the game either, but at the moment they're looking a pretty happy camp.
And well, they might be. We're going to go into some highlights of their win in just a moment, and especially the second half, where the Victorians did dominate in the second half, kicking 10 goals to the WA side, only 5 or 6, and certainly I think it was about the 20-minute mark of the third quarter that Victoria began to get on top. I thought Craven, Hando, Hartney, Lenigan and Dobson were some of their better players. As we have a look at some of these highlights, that was an interesting one where Hando went up and took the mark off the post, and well, it was paid behind. He went back, he was going to have a shot for goal, was David Hando, the boy from St Arnaud, but in fact it was deemed to be a point. There he is with his hand on his hip, not very happy about the situation. But we saw some great marking and some great goals today. Some of the long kicking of the Western Australian forwards was a delight. Lee Wright did some good work, and we're going to see Victoria coming into attack on this occasion, and there was little Hando flying again, and at the back of the pack a beautiful snap here, and that was one of the fine goals of the day, and that snap came off the boot of Kenny Murray from memory, or was it Terry Love? It went long and rolled right through the centre. There was Lenigan kicking, and Lenigan must have had 25 kicks. Hando rose high there, but it was Big Walsh who stood his ground in front. The boy from Traralgon shouldn't be disappointed with his game today. He played a fine game, did John Wells, kicking 2 majors. Hando, I mentioned, also kicked 2 goals, and there was another one of the fine running goals of the Vicks, and later in the game they began to get a lot of soft goals as the WA side got fairly tired. Fine mark taken in that exchange, and I think marking was the highlight here today. There were some beautiful grabs taken.
There were some good grabs, Rod. You had a look at three-quarter time and came back with a comment that you thought that the West Australian side might have run out of legs, so that's basically how it ended up.
Yes, I think it was. I think the Victorian team are probably a little bit more professional, the way that their attitude of the game when they're playing in Major League football. It's pretty good football around Victoria, and all of these players are really true, almost professional footballers, and they've turned themselves out very well, just that little bit fitter, and they lasted the game more than the Western Australian.
Well, Lenihan putting through that goal, and for mine, one of the better players for the Victorian Country Football League. The boys shortly will go through some of their better players, but Tony Beck came onto the ground and into the centre of the ground, then Stuart Gull moving down into the forward line, and all of a sudden we started to see the Victorian forward line start to open up a little bit, and I think it was the experience of Beck down there that started directing a little bit of traffic. Little fellow on your screen right now, Mick Cleary, tried hard for the West Australian side, did a lot of good work up on the forward line, perhaps spent most of his time on centre wing. There were some great battles here today, and his battle was won. Here's little Crognali, snatched 2 in the last quarter, and that was a spectacular one. He got one which was equally spectacular a little bit later on. In fact, here we see it again now, just as we talk. Crognali's 2 goals, 2 moments of glory. And talking of moments of glory, there's young Craven on your screen, but I'm going to ask you one question, Shane Healy. There's been a lot of criticism by clubs and various things as such. Been a lot of criticism of clubs of such that these sort of games shouldn't take place in Winfield. We can see a happy Mick Lenihan on your screen, and to me that tells the story. I think it's a very selfish attitude by country clubs to try and keep players away from Winfield games and TUI Cup challenges like we're seeing now.
I think we can say there's been criticism, and you're right, there has been, but I think it's only been in the minority. I think basically most leagues are happy to support such days as this. I think most leagues are happy to support the Winfield Championships, which have been a great success over a long period now. We've got Geelong and Bendigo leagues battling it out in a few weeks in St Albans for this year's grand final. There's the coach, Stewie Gull, walking off the ground pretty relieved. This time 7 days ago, you and I walked off the Horsham City Oval with him. He had his head down. He was a disappointed man.
David Butterford, I suppose you're talking of disappointed man. Last week, he wouldn't have thought he'd be there. There's Stewie Gull giving it across to young Danny Craven, who, as we said before, had his moments of glory, played well for the VCFL. The handshakes are going out, and great reward for the Victorian Country Football League team. They had the better of West Australia last year. Now they've had the better of them again this year. We'll have a look at some better players for you very, very shortly, but we'll be back with a rundown of all the highlights, perhaps, of this game as we saw it very, very shortly. Well, welcome back to the Deakin Reserve here at Shepparton this afternoon, where we've witnessed a great game of football. The 2 country leagues of West Australia and, of course, the Victorian Country Football League doing battle, and Victorian Country Football League supreme again. Let's have a look at the final scores. 17-27, 129 to the VCFL, to West Australia 13-10-88. Shane Healy, it's been a pleasure working with you again, and also Rod Kilgour, and downstairs to Don, but in a word, you're better players.
Okay, well, 2 words. I'll cheat. Craven and Hando, toss of the coin. Both little fellas, both performed marvellously.
David Hando, for me, a magnificent performance.
Well, I thought Mick Lenehan put in a tremendous performance for the Victorian Country Football League side. Congratulations to them and to Stuart Gull and to my co-commentators this afternoon. Thank you. It's been a great pleasure working with you. Wherever you may have been watching us on the Six Network, I hope that you've enjoyed our coverage. And don't forget, the live sport action still continues tonight, 11 p.m. from Wimbledon, the men's finals between Boris Becker and Stefan Edberg. Hope you can stay with us then. From us here from the Deakin Reserve, it's a very...